right now in Oslo, the capital of Norway, to play my very first 1v1 FIDE rated chess match. You see, I'm going to be playing against the same guy 6 games in a row, and it's a real tournament. It's an official match, and it's getting rated. I'm really excited about this because I've wanted to do something like this for very long, where I basically challenge someone to see, okay, who's the better chess player out of us two? Now, my opponent is a very strong player. He is a candidate master, rated 2164. His name is Odin Blikra from Norway, and he also has the Guinness World Record for playing chess for the longest amount of time. He has played chess for over 62 hours straight, which is like unfathomable. It's crazy. He's so mentally strong. So that's the guy I'm playing a match against. And today we had day number 1. We played 2 games, round 1 and round 2. The games are pretty fast. There are 60 minutes plus 30 seconds per move, which is the lowest time control you can have in classical. I've never played this time control before. It's like a weird mix of classical, but like a lot faster. But I'm very excited to show you how the games went. So let me start by showing you in a good English round 1, which happened this morning. I had the black pieces and he went e4, I went c5, very normal. This is Anna Cramling playing. And it became what I typically always play, a Sveshnikov. Now I feel very comfortable in this opening, so I kind of wanted to test him and see, okay, what have you prepared against my main line? Because this is what I feel the best playing. I have good results with this. I've studied this a lot and I just thought, okay, let's see what he does against it. Unfortunately for me, he actually had prepared this exact line a couple days ago with a very strong player for like 3 hours straight. So he knew exactly what he was doing in the opening. In this position, he played the move c4. This is very common, threatening my pawn. And after I pushed my pawn up and defended it, he went for this move that is a little bit, well, it's very normal as well, h4, that is to prevent bishop g5, and also to start going g4, g5, and create an attack on my king. Here I was really worried about this expansion of pawns, and so I thought, okay, Anna, we gotta stop this. So I went for the move h5, which for my chess playing self felt like a very crazy move because I am pushing one of the pawns in front of my king. It's now going to take a little while for me to castle because this pawn is hanging, and potentially this could be weakening my king's side. But yeah, I spent a little bit too long, I think, on this move, but I ultimately did it, and it's a totally fine move. But I didn't know. I was like, is this just like a complete blunder because I was coming up with it, you know, during the board I was improvising, but it's actually fine. So he went g3, I pushed my pawn as well to defend and now be able to castle. And now after queen d3, I thought his idea was to go rook d1, and after that threaten to take over here and then take this pawn. But I thought, okay, that is a risk that I have to take. And so I decided to castle. He had a very different idea though. He started by playing knight e3, which in the moment I thought was a bit strange because it allowed for me to place my knight on d4, which I thought was a great knight. Now he's threatening to go rook d1, but he actually did this move long castles instead, where the rook still ends up going to d1, but now this king is safe as well. And I was not expecting this move whatsoever. Odin is a very aggressive player. He's very tactical. He loves attacking. And so it made sense that he played like this. It was a very, aggressive game. But yeah, I just didn't expect it at all. I played this move bishop g7, which is a really good move because now I'm keeping the bishop forever. There's not really any way for him to get rid of it. And he played the move f4. Now this was actually a mistake, but I didn't realize it. And I spent like 20 minutes thinking here because I couldn't come up with my plan. My initial idea was to go f5 and just counterattack and kind of stop him from playing f5. But then I thought that after he goes something like bishop g2, I wasn't really sure exactly of what to do. Yeah, I think sometimes in chess you should just play moves that you think are good, even if you don't see the concrete way of playing after. So this is what I should have played. Instead here I made a mistake. I went for the move bishop d7 because I wanted to keep everything kind of flexible, but now he has to move f5, and now I'm never going to be allowed to play f5 myself anymore, and my bishop, which was so beautiful before, is just not going to be beautiful anymore because it's going to get stuck. So I went a4 here, and I was trying to come up with a counterattack, but this is actually just not a counterattack that in any way works because After I go b3, he just locks the whole position down, and now all the action is on my side of the board. And I wasn't sure of how to continue on his side. So I went rook c8, which wasn't really a good move. I was playing some random moves, but I didn't really know exactly what to do. And unfortunately, my position here, like, yeah, it kind of crumbled. I mean, everything started falling apart. And I had also just spent way too much time. It was just a combination of so many things. But ultimately, I mean, here, as you can see in this position, I was a pawn down. But the main issue was that my king was just so incredibly weak. And so I tried to defend, but I ended up losing an exchange. And, well, you guys can see after a few more moves, what happened here was that it became a checkmate. I even let him do the checkmate on the board. So I went through this game pretty quickly, but truth to be told, I just played a bad game. I didn't see this idea of going f5, or I saw it, but I didn't play it, which doesn't count then. And then the position just crumbled. It was a tough position for me to play. I wasn't able to find the correct moves, and then it all went downhill. So I was feeling a little bit sad after this game because I thought, okay, is this how the match is going to go? Am I going to lose like all games? I literally thought like, am I going to lose 6 games in a row? Like, what did I sign up for? But then we played game number 2. And game number 2 was one of the craziest roller coaster games that I've ever seen in my whole life. In game number 2, I had the white pieces and I just thought, okay, Anna, let's just not lose this game because if I start 2-0, it's just not going to be a good start to the match. So I went d4, he went knight f6, I went knight f3, he played e6, and now this became, well, he played c5 here, threatening my pawn. And I here thought, I mean, I would 10 out of 10 times always go d5, but I knew that he was the kind of player to want to play at some point stuff like b5, and I just didn't want to play a tactical game against him again after this morning. I just didn't feel like it. I wanted to play a more positional game because I have come to realize that I am more of a positional player. Like, I am more of a slow player, which, like, I've always thought that I'm this ultra aggressive tactical person, but I've come to realize that I think I'm a little bit more, like, soft. Like, not soft, but, like, no, this is coming off wrong. I'm a little bit more just, like, I like positional chess, if that makes sense. Long-term plans instead of just short-term attack. So c5, I ended up going e3 instead, just defending the pawn. And here we traded pawns. I got my knight out. And after this, I ended up going bishop g5, which honestly, I don't really think was that good of a move. I think I should have done something else. I feel like here, I'm already deciding where the bishop goes. I think I should have gone something like a3 maybe, just to keep a little bit more flexible. I could also go something like bishop e2. But I went bishop g5. He got out his bishop. I went bishop e7. He took, and now I ended up having this isolated pawn. And I was like, okay, wait a second. Like, is this really that good? Like, should I be happy? I typically like playing with isolated pawns, which is basically a pawn that has no other pawn that's protecting it, because it allows for a lot of diagonals and stuff to be open. But I was really scared for my dear pawn. Like, he was fighting for his life. So I went rook c1 here. He played b5. Here, actually, this is really fun. I was calculating for a while this crazy move d5, which is apparently the top computer move. And this is my first time analyzing this game, so it's really cool for me to see. But yeah, I didn't play d5 because I thought he had knight a5. The idea here is, this is really crazy, but the idea here is that basically, if I am able to trade everything off, I'm going to be pretty happy because I don't have this isolated pawn anymore. And if he takes my bishop, well, then I'll take his knight. But I didn't play this because he has this move knight a5, and I wasn't really sure exactly what was going on here. I mean, I'm just losing a pawn. But yeah, anyways, this didn't happen. I played bishop d3 immediately. He went bishop b7. Here, I should have played something like bishop b1, queen d3, I think, to forever be threatening checkmate. Instead, I played the move a4. He played b4. I went knight e2. He played knight a5. And I went knight e5, so I was trying to kind of reroute my knights and my pieces, but once again, the biggest issue is this pawn. He played rook c8, and now I found this idea, which I thought was really good, which was of taking and then going for the move queen b1, threatening to take this knight and then capture this pawn. And I also thought with this, I'll be able to go rook c1. Yeah, I'm not sure if this was the best thing to do because my queen ended up being very off the board. He played h6, and here I spent a little bit of time thinking. I decided to go for the move rook c1. And the reason I was thinking here was because I was really analyzing this move, queen a8, threatening to take on g2, and then I thought the best continuation for me would be to take his knight. And now I was trying to calculate, what happens in this position. Can he go bishop takes g2, or can he not? And I thought he couldn't, but I was analyzing like all these crazy lines. So yeah, I spent a bit of time thinking with that. He went queen d8, I went back with the bishop. He played knight d5, and now I went for the move bishop d2 because I wanted to keep my bishop. I thought that I didn't want to trade these bishops, especially because if I trade this off, he might get like a very nice bishop over here. So I went bishop d2, he went knight b3, I went rook d1, defending, and now I went for this move, knight b6. And I think that in this, I think that in this position, I literally played my favorite move of all time. Like, I think I found my favorite move that I've ever played in a tournament game in my life. I am so proud that I found this move, and it's also the top computer move, and it makes me so happy. Here, Odin is threatening this pawn. And I could just go bishop e3 back and, whatever. He can go back and, okay, we'll see what happens. But he's threatening this pawn right now, so I need to deal with that. But I thought, wait, instead of defending this pawn, can I attack his king? And so I found this crazy move, knight f4, which I think is so beautiful. Because now, if you, for instance, would take this pawn, there's actually a checkmate in 6 moves, which is beautiful. Bishop h7 check, king h8, knight takes f7 check, rook takes, all of this is forced, knight g6 check, only move is king takes h7, and after knight f8, it's a double check with the queen and the knight. When the king goes to g8, I have queen h7 check, and after he takes here, because the fact that the rook and the bishop are both stuck in front of the king, I have checkmate. And so in this position, after knight f4, he must move this bishop pretty much to not lose the game. And it looks just so crazy. But yeah, I was just so proud when I saw this. It's the same if he takes here. Once again, it's going to be a checkmate in the exact same way with knight takes f7 and with the check on f8. So it's just a really beautiful checkmate that I'm threatening, and he has to deal with it somehow. So he had actually played really fast the whole game, but he spent 20 minutes thinking here, and ultimately he found the best move in the whole position, which was bishop d6. And now with this move, he is, basically the difference is that in the previous line, when the king gets to f8, it's not going to be a checkmate with the queen on h8 anymore because the king has this e7 square to escape to. So I ended up playing bishop e3, and I played it relatively quickly. I just thought, okay, I can't see anything forcing. Let me just play a move instead of calculating crazy lines forever. He went knight d5. I took, and here at first I was going to do something like queen c2, but I really didn't like these bishops, and I ended up just taking on a6 to at least give myself this passed pawn. Now he went for this move, queen a8, threatening my bishop and threatening this pawn. So I went bishop f1, defending. He took my pawn, and I started to get into time scramble here. I had 3 minutes on the clock, and let me tell you, this game was going to be a lot more moves, but I was never going to recover from this time trouble. I was going to end up having less than 3 minutes for the rest of the game. So I went knight c4, he went bishop c7. I was trying to exchange as many pieces as possible and activate all my pieces. Went bishop d3, he played f5, I went f4. I was constantly missing this move, queen a1, but finally after he went rook f6, I was able to trade off my queens, and now I was very happy because I felt like everything is under control. So I played rook a4, threatening this pawn. He defended it, I attacked this knight, threatening this pawn again, and now he did a very Odin move, which was g5, just going for the attack. I traded off the pawns, and I ended up winning this pawn, but these bishops were stronger than what I thought they were. So actually here, I was trying to activate my knight, but even though I am a pawn up right now, he's actually better in this position. And I realized that when he played this move rook a8, because now my king is just so weak, like I'm almost getting checkmated. I played h3 with 2 seconds on the clock. He checked, I went up, he threatened my bishop. My bishop was just so bad, it couldn't go anywhere. I went knight g4, defending it, but here I was literally holding on to my dear life. I went g3, and my king is just so weak now. So I was trying to activate my rook, And here I should actually go something like knight e3 to stop the rook from coming back. But I didn't do that, and then he went rook c2, and now, you know, this was pin town. Like, I was getting pinned in so many different ways. I started messing up a little bit here, ended up losing my pawn, and here I didn't really know exactly what to do. Could maybe just go b5 and give up the pawn, but I didn't really see that. And so I played king g1, and when I played this, I had seen that he had this move bishop takes g3, but I didn't have time to calculate it, and I just thought, okay, let's see what happens. So he went bishop takes g3, which is a fantastic move. It's actually a brilliant move according to chess.com. And after I took back, he went for this check, rook g2 check. He's now won a pawn. He's going to be able to win back my bishop and be, it's going to be equal pawns. So I'm not completely winning for him, but because my king is so weak and my knight and rook are so clumsy, and this bishop and the rook are so strong, I am much worse. But in this position, instead of taking my bishop back immediately, he decided to go for an intermediate move because he thought that he was winning. And this makes a lot of sense because if he takes my bishop, it's going to be equal material. Absolutely, a chess engine will say that he's winning, but a human cannot do that when it's completely equal material, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense that he went for the line that he thought was just instantly winning, and that is this move, bishop c4 check. However, this, crazily enough, is a mistake because the reason he thought this was winning was because after king e1, I mean, he cannot take this bishop because then I will win the bishop and be a piece up with this fork. He has to go for this move, rook e2 check, and now what he thought was that if I go king d1, I lose the rook, and if I go king f1, there's no way this works. I mean, the rook is literally in the same diagonal as the bishop, like something like rook a2, winning my rook must win, right? That's what you think. But no, it's not winning because actually this is what happened, and it's actually not winning, which is crazy. And he was shocked when this happened, and we were kind of both looking at each other like, how is this not completely winning for him? But it's not. So he went back and forth a few times, and then here he decided to push for the win. The best thing he can do is to win my rook, but the idea is that after I move my king back, I have this fork, and I actually end up having these two pieces for the rook, and he's definitely better because he has this really strong pawn, and he's going to win my pawns. But the knight and the bishop, as long as I play this correctly, it's a draw. So here I had to be very careful because, for instance, if I take this here, this was really nice. He had this move king e3, and now I'm either losing my knight or getting checkmated. So there were a lot of nasty threats constantly, but I found knight b3 here, which was a really good move because after he takes my pawn, I have this check, and now I'm able to win a few pawns. And now this is the only move that saves the position because of this knight c5 check. And now after bishop e3, there's no way for him to defend both of these pawns. But this, I'm going through it pretty quickly, but it required quite a lot of thinking. And like I said, for the past 40 moves, I've had less than 3 minutes on the clock. So I was really stressed here. I decided now to take the pawn, and after rook h5, I went knight e6, defending the bishop, and now this became a draw. So I was able to save the game and get a draw in the second round. It was a crazy round, and ultimately today I ended up getting half a point, and he now has 1.5 points. So it felt great for me to get this draw. It made me feel like, more than for the result, I feel like I had played a good game. We both played at 93% accuracy. So I felt like, you know what, I can fight for a very long time and I can save worse positions. And that to me gave me a lot of confidence, even though I was a bit lucky because obviously he could have just taken my bishop there and then it would have been a tough endgame for me. But yeah, I'm just really happy that I was able to get this draw, and please follow the live stream. I'm streaming tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. CET, 2:30 p.m. CET, so you can watch live rounds 3 and 4 of my match against Odin. I hope you enjoyed day number 1 and subscribe. Thank you for watching.